There are moments when you can feel something in the air, an unexplainable vibration, a subtle presence that touches your soul without warning. You look around and there's no one there, yet inside you, there's a quiet certainty. Someone is thinking about you, feeling you. This is not a coincidence. In deep connections like that of a twin flame, the signs manifest even when the bodies are far apart. This is not about ordinary telepathy or shallow intuition. It is about an archetypal ancestral bond where the unconscious minds intertwine, breaking the barriers of space and time. When your twin flame feels you, the universe responds, and certain unmistakable signs begin to emerge in both your psychic and physical reality. Stay until the end and discover how to recognize these signs and what they reveal about your inner journey. And if something here resonates with you, write in the comments. I feel this connection in my soul. In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, deep connections like that of a twin flame can be understood through some of his fundamental concepts. For Jung, the collective unconscious is a field shared by all humanity, where universal archetypes dwell, profoundly influencing our emotions, relationships, and experiences. The relationship with a twin flame is rooted in this field, for it is not limited to the conscious self, but touches archetypal layers of the soul. Projection is one of the first mechanisms activated in this kind of relationship. We see in the other deep aspects of ourselves, often unconscious, that we long to integrate. This explains the feeling of instant familiarity and the inexplicable recognition that occurs when two twin flames meet. We are not just seeing the other, we are seeing our own shadow and light reflected back. Jung also speaks of individuation as an essential process. It is the journey in which the individual seeks to unite the conscious and the unconscious, integrating their totality. The twin flame in this context is not a romantic end goal, but a powerful catalyst for this transformation. When they feel you, your twin flame activates parts of your psyche that still need to be seen, welcomed, and healed. The signs that appear when this connection manifests indicate that the psyche is in motion, opening portals between the inner and outer worlds. Finally, the archetypes of the animus and the anima, the unconscious representations of the masculine and feminine within each person, reveal themselves strongly in this dynamic. The twin flame embodies what you need to integrate in order to become whole. When they feel you, the echo reverberates through your soul, awakening symbols, dreams, and experiences that call for conscious attention. Understanding the connection between twin flames through the lens of analytical psychology requires looking at the collective unconscious as the field where such a bond becomes possible. For Carl Jung, the collective unconscious is not just a repository of forgotten content, but a living system of archetypal images that profoundly influence our thoughts, behaviors, and emotional bonds. When we speak of twin flames, we are speaking of a connection that transcends the ego and anchors itself in the depths of the unconscious, where these universal images dwell and communicate with one another. The encounter with a twin flame is not merely accidental. It emerges as a simultaneous activation of unconscious content shared by both parties. Even before physical or visual contact, there is a silent exchange taking place on a more subtle psychic plane. The collective unconscious acts as a bridge between these two individual consciousnesses, causing thoughts, emotions, and even physical sensations to synchronize in unexpected ways. This explains why many people report feeling the presence or energy of the other person, even at a distance, as if they were connected by an invisible line transmitting emotions and perceptions in real time. This psychic bridge is sustained by archetypes, universal structures of meaning shared by all human beings. In the case of twin flames, the archetypes of the self, the soulmate, the anima, and the animus are the most activated. The self represents the organizing center of the psyche and guides the individuation process, while the anima and animus represent, respectively, the feminine and masculine unconscious aspects within each individual. Upon meeting your twin flame, these archetypes awaken strongly, creating a psychic tension that drives both parties toward integration and growth. The collective unconscious also operates through symbols, and these often manifest in dreams, visions, bodily sensations, or intuitions. It is common that before or during an intense connection with a twin flame, one begins to experience a series of symbolic images that seem to come from beyond personal experience. This may include archetypal visions of union, mirrors, lights, labyrinths, or even elements of nature such as fire and water. Universal representations of the process of inner transformation. This symbolism is not random. It reflects the process of communication between two unconscious minds, recognizing each other through the universal language of the collective. This is the same language found in myths, fairy tales, and deep spiritual experiences. For this reason, when a twin flame feels the other, the impact is not only emotional but also psychic, physical, and even spiritual. It is as if something deep within the soul awakens and begins to reorganize a person's life around this new axis of meaning. Another important aspect is that this silent communication does not follow the logic of linear time. The collective unconscious operates outside chronological time, functioning in a kind of symbolic time where past, present, and future intertwine. This explains why often someone can feel the presence of their twin flame before ever meeting them physically, as if there were an invisible preparation taking place in the soul's backstage. Moreover, this bridge formed by the collective unconscious also serves as a space for healing. By accessing deep emotions and dormant archetypes, the encounter with a twin flame reveals old wounds and repetitive patterns that need transformation. This does not happen by chance, but as part of a natural movement of the psyche toward wholeness. The presence of the other acts as a mirror, showing not only what is beautiful, but also what must be reviewed, accepted, and integrated. Thus, understanding the collective unconscious as this bridge between twin flames allows us to see that this connection goes far beyond romance or passion. It is an encounter orchestrated by deep psychic forces aimed at the evolution of both individuals. It is a dance between unconscious minds that recognize each other amid the noise of the conscious world. And when this bridge is activated, the signs begin to appear, not as external proof but as internal confirmations that something greater is in motion, something that cannot be explained only in words but can be felt by the soul. When your twin flame feels you, the body and the heart are the first to respond. This type of connection surpasses the limits of intellect and reason, activating deeper centers of perception and sensitivity. It is not merely an abstract feeling or an emotional coincidence. It is a real manifestation of communication between unconscious minds intertwined at the subtlest level of existence. The body becomes the channel of expression for this shared vibration, and the signs, though often discreet, are unmistakable for those awake enough to perceive them. One of the first physical signs may be a sudden energetic shift. You are calm, and suddenly a warmth runs through your chest. A sensation of tightness or expansion appears in your heart, or even a shiver travels down your spine. These reactions have no apparent physical cause, but are somatic responses to an energetic interaction happening in real time. The heart, as the symbolic center of love and connection, is often the main receiver of this communication, reacting with a faster heartbeat, sensations of lightness, or even a sudden, unexplained melancholy. Other signs may include changes in sleep, such as vivid dreams featuring your twin flame, waking in the middle of the night with the sense that something is about to happen, or feeling that someone is with you, even when you are alone. These dreams, far from being mere creations of the mind, are spaces where the unconscious finds freedom to communicate what it cannot express in waking life. Many people report dreaming of symbolic situations involving their twin flames exactly when the other was also going through intense emotional experiences, a direct reflection of the connection between their inner worlds. On the emotional level, the signs run even deeper. There may be moments of intense joy without any apparent cause, as if a wave of love had flooded your body. The opposite can also occur, a sadness that is not entirely yours, but is felt with real intensity. These emotions are not illusions. They are part of the emotional field shared between twin flames. One's unconscious may be projecting or sending feelings across this invisible psychic bridge, reaching the other as if they were their own. Another striking sign is the sudden memory of the other person, even in completely unrelated situations. You may be engaged in a routine task and suddenly feel a presence, a specific thought, a desire to send a message, or simply an inner calling to connect. These impulses are often a reflection of the fact that the other person is indeed thinking about you, feeling you, energetically connecting in that moment. There is an emotional flow between you that manifests in spontaneous yet deeply meaningful ways. Sensitivity also intensifies. You may notice scents, sounds, or tactile sensations with no physical source, but which evoke memories or feelings linked to your twin flame. Smell, in particular, is a sense strongly connected to the unconscious and to emotional memory. Many people report smelling the other's perfume, even from miles away, as if the body were registering the presence on levels not explainable by common logic. There may also be signs in the external environment, such as songs playing at the exact moment you think of the other person, phrases spoken by strangers that seem like direct answers to your emotional questions, or objects appearing in sync with thoughts and feelings. These external signs are actually reflections of an internal field in motion, physical manifestations of what is being processed energetically between twin flames. It is important to understand that these signs should not be interpreted with anxiety or obsession, but rather welcomed with presence and awareness. They do not necessarily mean the other person will come to you physically, but they do indicate that there is an inner movement of recognition, healing, and reconnection happening on deep levels. When your twin flame feels you, they are often in their own individuation process, dealing with shadows, resistances, and fears. What you feel is the echo of that, as if your souls were touching in silence, in the dark. Ultimately, these signs are invitations to turn inward. The connection is not only with the other, but with what their presence awakens in you. It is a reminder that your soul is in a process of expansion, and that every sensation, emotion, or intuition is a key to accessing deeper parts of who you are. When you feel and when you are felt, the inner universe opens, and it is in this sacred space that true transformation begins. The twin flame relationship often stirs such profound emotional and spiritual intensity that it becomes impossible to ignore the hidden aspects of the psyche. This happens because this connection acts as an amplifying mirror, reflecting not only the idealized love or affinities, but also what is hidden, the shadow. Carl Jung defined the shadow as the repressed, denied, or ignored part of our unconscious, all that we do not want to admit about ourselves. And it is precisely in the deepest connections that this shadow reveals itself most strongly, as an inevitable summons to transformation. When you feel your twin flame, or when they feel you, it is not only a wave of pleasant emotions that emerges. What surfaces is also the energy of unconscious content, longing to be seen. The link between these two souls acts as a bridge through which these hidden aspects travel. Often pain, rejection, fear, and attachment rise to the surface, not because of the other person per se, but because they serve as a catalyst for what had been dormant within you. In this process, projection becomes an active force. Jung described projection as the mechanism through which the unconscious transfers its inner images to the outside world. In other words, we see in the other what is actually within ourselves. In connection with a twin flame, this intensifies. The overwhelming passion is often less about the person themselves and more about what they symbolically represent to our unconscious. We attribute to them qualities of salvation, completeness, beauty, and strength because we are projecting onto them the unintegrated aspects of our own being. The shadow and projection walk hand in hand. When you project something positive, like an ideal of love or perfection, you are projecting the golden shadow, luminous parts of yourself not yet consciously recognized. And when you feel rejected, ignored, or threatened by the presence or absence of your twin flame, you are dealing with the dark shadow, the parts that hold pain, lack, jealousy, or insecurity. The energetic connection between these souls thus becomes a field of revelations. Every gesture, silence, or absence of the other is interpreted by your unconscious as a message about yourself. This dynamic can bring either healing or suffering, depending on how it is embraced. When one understands that the pain caused by the twin flame's distance is not necessarily the other's fault, but rather a mirror of internal wounds that have not yet been touched, one begins to enter the true process of individuation. The twin flame connection then ceases to be just a romantic longing and becomes a psychic path of self-knowledge. It is common that, after strongly feeling the other person's energy, Contradictory feelings arise: love and anger, desire and fear, closeness and withdrawal. This happens because the twin flame represents a significant portion of the collective unconscious you are trying to integrate. As this integration occurs, projections begin to dissolve, and with them the relationship transforms. The other ceases to be an ideal and starts to be seen as a real human being, with their own light and shadow. And more importantly, you also begin to see yourself more clearly. The role of the shadow in this context is fundamental. It is not the enemy, but the gateway. When you feel something uncomfortable arising from your connection with your twin flame, that feeling is a key. It points to a part of you crying out for attention, perhaps an old trauma, a limiting belief, or a repetitive pattern that needs to be acknowledged and transformed. The twin flame's energy does not cause these feelings, it reveals them. And only what is revealed can be healed. For this reason, the energetic connection between twin flames is, above all, a call to consciousness. It demands that you go beyond idealizations and face what lies beneath what you feel, that you face your shadow with courage and love, and that you understand that every emotion, every memory, every sensation awakened by this presence has a greater purpose: to lead you back to yourself, whole and awake. When this understanding takes root, the relationship transforms. Suffering turns into wisdom. Attachment dissolves into freedom. And the presence of the twin flame stops being a painful necessity, becoming instead a luminous reference in your own process of transformation. The energy between you continues to exist, but now as a force that heals rather than wounds, as a bridge that connects without imprisoning. All this becomes possible when you decide to look within, rather than seeking only in the other what has always been within you. There are moments in life when events seem orchestrated by an invisible intelligence. You think of someone, and minutes later, you receive a message. You walk down the street, lost in thought, and come across a symbol, a phrase, or a song that seems to speak directly to your heart. These moments, as striking as they are subtle, are what Carl Jung called synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that have no causal relationship but carry deep symbolic content. In the context of twin flames, synchronicities are clear signs that there is active communication between the unconscious minds of both souls involved. Synchronicities are not random events. They occur when there is a connection between an individual's inner state and the external events of the world. When two souls are energetically connected, even if physically distant or separated in time, the symbolic field they share begins to interact with the environment around them. This means that thoughts, emotions, and unconscious desires begin to manifest through external signs, as if the universe were responding to the internal vibration of these intertwined consciousnesses. In the case of twin flames, these signs appear repeatedly and carry a particular emotional weight. One of the most common examples is the repetition of numbers, such as 1111, 2222, or specific sequences appearing on clocks, license plates, receipts, or phone screens. These numbers do not necessarily have a universal meaning, but they take on deep significance because they become triggers for remembering, recognizing, and feeling the other's presence. It is as if the psyche was saying, "You are not alone. Something is happening beneath the surface of things." Other forms of synchronicity include coming across the other person's name in unexpected contexts, hearing songs connected to your shared story during emotionally charged moments, or receiving symbolic messages through films, books, or even strangers' conversations. These events function as mirrors of what is being processed in the unconscious. They are not planned by the ego, but emerge from an alignment between the individual psyche, the collective unconscious, and the archetypal field surrounding the twin flame journey. Carl Jung stated that synchronicities are manifestations of the self, the organizing and totalizing core of the psyche. When you are involved in such a deep connection, the self activates to facilitate the individuation process. This means that the signs appear not only to confirm feelings or feed expectations, but to guide, provoke insights, and expand awareness. Each synchronicity is an invitation to full attention, to symbolic listening, and to interpreting the language of the soul. It is crucial to understand that synchronicities are not guarantees of physical union or promises of the future. They are above all confirmations that there is an inner movement happening, and that this movement has repercussions in the external world. When your twin flame feels you, or when there is an intense energetic exchange between you, the symbolic field responds with specific messages. The role of those who are awake is to welcome these signs not as absolute answers, but as clues that guide you inward. The power of synchronicity lies in its ability to remind us that everything is interconnected, that the visible and invisible worlds are in constant dialogue, and that deep emotions have reflections in the fabric of reality. When you are in tune with your twin flame, the universe seems to conspire to keep that connection alive, not merely to sustain a romance, but to awaken in both of you the awareness of the wholeness that resides within each. It is also through synchronicities that many people become aware of the depth of this bond. They appear in moments of doubt, during periods of separation, or on days of emotional crisis. They do not demand logic, but presence. They are silent reminders that the bond between souls is not broken by distance, time, or silence. On the contrary, in many cases, it is in silence and absence that synchronicities become more frequent, as if the unconscious were finding new ways to keep the thread of connection active. Therefore, when synchronicities manifest, do not rush to interpret them with anxiety or a need for control. Allow yourself to feel what they awaken. Reflect on what they are trying to show. Perhaps they are revealing an unrecognized emotion, a decision that needs to be made, or an aspect of yourself still waiting for integration. And above all, see them as proof that something greater is working through you, something that cannot be explained, only experienced. The twin flame connection is a symbolic and spiritual journey. Synchronicities are the language of that journey. They do not tell you what to do, but they show you that you are on the path. When your twin flame feels you, the universe responds, not with words, but with signs that touch the heart and awaken the soul to something far beyond the visible. If this message touched something within you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share your experience in the comments. And don't forget to watch the video now appearing on the screen. It might be the next step in your journey of awakening and self-discovery.